It's now 2 o'clock on September 8, 2021. We're at a joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners of Vero County and the City of Vero Beach City Council. We're starting to pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do a roll call, Kenny.
Mr. Winger?
President.
Mr. McCabe?
Present.
Mrs. Manous?
Present.
Vice Mayor Neville?
Present.
Mayor Brackett?
Present.
We're all here.
Okay, all right.
I can certify.
All right, I think everybody has the agenda in front of them. As always do, start out, I'm going to take a couple, 3 minutes, and Chairman will let your chance to do the same thing, and then from there we'll let staff give a presentation they have something to give from that standpoint. Thank you, Claire. First of all, we thank Charter High School for having us. They did a great job for setup, and I do appreciate that, and many thanks from the city and the county here. Okay. Why are we asking you to recognize the permanent duration of the 1989 territorial agreement? In the late 1960s, the city was asked to provide utilities to the barrier island areas adjacent to the city, and we supplied those utilities. In the early 80s, the county made an unsuccessful attempt to provide utilities to the South Beach area. In 1984, the Board of County Commissioners expressed its appreciation to the city for its cooperation providing service to that area. The county then granted the city its first permanent service territory of South Beach for water in 1984 and sewer in 1985. In 1987, to allow the county to collect a franchise fee, 30-year franchise agreements for water and sewer were approved. Those agreements have since expired, and we are continuing to collect the fee on your behalf. In a 1989 after a joint meeting just like this one today, the 1989 territorial agreement was adopted by the city and the county. The city has since invested tens of millions of dollars in the sub-aqueous crossings of the Indian River Lagoon, built extensive reuse systems to offset potable water use, and constructed a water and wastewater plant facility capable of serving the area covered in the 1989 territorial agreement at Hilltop. We are now embarking upon 2 projects which will not only serve our territory, but will benefit the entire county. First, we will be constructing a project that will repurpose stormwater from the main leak canal for irrigation. This will lessen the demand for potable water and will reduce nutrients, including nitrogen and phosphorus, from going into the lagoon. Second, and most important, we will be constructing a new site at state-of-the-art advanced wastewater treatment plant. Once complete, this will allow the existing plant on the lagoon edge to be decommissioned and will also reduce the effluent nutrient levels and greatly benefit the lagoon. We currently have the infrastructure in place to cover the areas. We also have the permitted capacity to serve the areas. Fighting over a service area that would require many tens of millions of dollars in additional investment makes no sense. Let's do as our predecessors did in 1989 and work together to serve our community in the most efficient and economical manner possible. We need you to recognize the permanent duration of the 1989 territorial agreement so that we can move forward with the new advanced wastewater treatment plant with capacity to serve the entire service area. If you are amenable to recognizing the permanent duration of the document now, we can conclude this meeting and we can go on back and do our effective work and represent our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I can hit that last point, but let me first begin with thanking you for expressing the city's position. It's my position that the best result of this process would be that the city continue to serve the town of Indian River Shores consistent with the terms of the existing franchise agreement, and that the city continue to serve the South Barrier Island under reasonable franchise agreements. It is not my intent, nor the Commission's intent, for the county to take over any of the city's service area. Again, it's not our intent to take over any of the city's service area. Nor is it our intent to have the city and the county engage in litigation. The county offer to the city would be the return of the key points of the county staff presented to the city several weeks ago. In the spirit of cooperation, the county would be willing to acknowledge the validity of the service area agreement in exchange for a reasonable franchise agreement for the areas of unincorporated Indian River County that are currently served with the city. That franchise agreement would have a phase-in to the city rates. County staff had proposed 5 years of the continued county rates, with the rates then shifting to city rates, but with a maximum annual increase of 5% per year. After that, the rates would be the city rates with no restrictions. It's my understanding that the city staff had concerns about the inability to control the rates during the phase-in period. To resolve that issue, I would propose that if the county were to ever decrease rates, imagine that, then the city could charge city rates. Simple as that. Just go with the city rates. Thus, the city would have a hard floor, and more certainly for the rates outside the city customers. The city would also have to not impose any surcharges, which is consistent with the current city billing practice. Finally, the level of service that would be the same for both customers in the city and in the unincorporated areas served by the city, both with respect to the water quality and the scheduling of improvement to the system. I believe that this is a very reasonable compromise that would help us avoid litigation and give the needed certainty to the city. We know the town has filed a lawsuit against the city about the service area agreement, and any resolution here may end up causing the county to be a co-defendant of such suits. But I want to come to some meaningful resolution between the city and the county, and as previously stated by county staff, it is not my intention to have the county be an active participant in any such litigation. I believe that this litigation is an issue between the town and the city. And today, I am not interested in hearing from staff and outside attorneys about litigation positions. We want to hear about resolutions and solutions. It is my understanding that the intent of the process is to have our two boards try to seek an agreement, to find common ground, an understanding, and a commitment to the service to the citizens of the Indian River County and any other jurisdiction involved. I want to hear from the City Council and my fellow board members on this proposal. Mr. Mayor, you also mentioned that why would we want to abide by the service agreement, the territorial agreement, territorial agreement. You know, and I think this was addressed during a commission meeting that was vetted out when the proposal for a feasibility study was made. And someone brought up, are you taking sides? No, we're not taking sides. That's why we're not involved with the process. We merely will cooperate with the applicant, as well as if the city was applying, we would cooperate and give full exposure to all of the information that we have and any study material that would assist in that process. Nothing more, nothing less, and we are not support or denial of that process. See, if the county agrees to the territorial agreement, if it's valid, the county becomes a defendant in the town's federal lawsuit. And if the county takes the position that the territorial agreement is invalid, the city will then in turn ultimately sue us. So it's a catch-22. So we have stayed away from that and not committed to the territorial agreement as it stands alone, and there is some litigation involved that we choose not to engage in to become part of that process. I think the highlights of this issue need to resolve between the town of Indian River Shores and the City of Vero Beach, and not have an additional co-defendant. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and I would just say to that we're not ready to start talking pricing at any point in time. Okay, we have studies still to continue to do. We've done some preliminary work on that. This issue is strictly about the agreement, 1989 Clerk Court Agreement. That's what our Chapter 164 was filed over. So we're not prepared to give pricing to anyone now. That being said, I'm not saying we're going to violate our contract with anybody, either one of the franchise agreements we have now. But we intend to sit down and work with them and show them we think we have a better plan. Okay, but so that will come forthcoming. So, but right now, from this side, we're not interested in talking about prices and so forth. So, I guess if that's the only agreement we can have, is we agree to pricing and you'll agree to the contract, then we don't have much to talk about today. I hate to say that and be that blunt, but that's, you know. Now we have a presentation we'd like to give and give you the history of this if you want to see it, how all this came about. If you don't want to see it, but you indicated you didn't, want to hear from staff, then that's your prerogative from that standpoint.
Well, my intent in that was that we had already heard from staff to staff, and this process is to bring things together.
Your staff has heard very little what's in this book. I've heard some, but not
And
all.
I think we will see.
No, we didn't know that if you'd heard it, okay, from that standpoint. So that's why we brought the book.
Well, our staff keeps us well aware of what's been going on and in the meetings. That's their job, just like your staff's job is to report to you what's been going on. So I think that at this point, we're in the joint public meeting phase of the 164 process. And reading from the statute relating to the joint public meeting phase, this is the time where the staff has not been able to come to a resolution. So it's for both governing boards to try to work out a resolution. So I think what the chair has indicated is he, and I believe the rest of the commission, would be more interested in having a dialogue with you guys versus having a dialogue with your staff, because our staffs have already got together and gone over their positions. If that doesn't work out, the next step is for us to try to work something out. So that's where we are, and that's where the dialogue should be happening, is what I believe.
And that's where the dialogue will happen after we make our presentation.
But we are aware of what your presentation is, and we're very aware of the information in this book. We've been given multiple emails from back and forth. I know there's been multiple public records requests of which we've been kept apprised. So I would be more interested in jumping into a dialogue than in going over the history of these documents that we've already seen several times.
I most certainly would like to see of the grit of why we're here. When you stated, Mr. Mayor, all respect, you said we're not ready to propose any rates. I understand that, but you can't expect any reasonable dialogue without knowing some kind of general number or some kind of guarantee. If you'll notice, what I stated was not an exact number. It was reasonable rates, it was consistent rates, and we talked about a transition, and staff was aware of the transition of a 5-year ease-in with a 5% increase. I think that's not talking numbers, that's not price per gallon or price per 1,000 gallons. That's talking about some general obligation rules so that we can go forward and make some sort of cohesive decision together. That's why we're here today.
Well, we have filed a Chapter 164 for one document only. There's another mention of rates anywhere in that document. So, no, I'm not prepared to talk rates and make the deal conditioned upon us giving a certain rate to someone. I'm conditioned. Let's judge the document on its merit.
May I speak? Yes. I'm happy to review the history of this matter. I did request documents of staff in preparation for this meeting today, and I received a single document, which is crossed out as recital, water, wastewater, and reclaimed water franchise agreement between City River County and the City of Vero Beach, so one document. I had the old contracts from months ago when I had requested those. But as far as these documents go, and spoken, I don't know if my colleagues have had a chance to look at the index or the table of contents, but a lot of these documents I'm not familiar with, and I think it always helps to understand the history and the context of a matter in order to make a sound decision. So I am amenable to hearing the history.
I'm good right now. Once again, the presentation is appropriate, but it's already been vetted out through staff. Our conversation today was to bring us together to find out what the tipping points are. What's really causing us to be at odds.
What's at odds is that we think the document says permanent, does have no expiration date, and apparently the commissioner thinks it does not say that.
No. It's in litigation, correct, Mr. Mayor?
What's that?
Is it in litigation?
This one?
And anything?
Not between you and the Custody County, no.
Right, no, but with another party.
Yes.
Okay, so if we engage in supporting or denying any territorial agreement, then we will then be also engaged in the courtroom testimony.
I guess that's a possibility, yes.
It's a great possibility.
We still have to decide whether this agreement exists or not. We've kicked this can down the road, go back historically, for 15 years on this agreement. And we have to decide if it exists or not before we go any further. If it doesn't exist, then we can move on with utilities. If it does exist, and by the way, that contract, not just say what areas we service, it obligates the city to service the town of individual shores in some areas. I think it's sewer, the obligation. So we have to know whether that contract exists or not between us. That's the whole reason we filed the 164. Until we acknowledge that, we can't move any further. I can't go talk to the shores about doing things with them, town of individual shores, on pricing and everything else, and try to work out an agreement with them.
Why not?
Because we don't know this contract, if it doesn't exist, they may want to leave us.
But you've already been engaged in conversations and in service with them under this existing contract.
We have been in service.
So I don't understand what the problem is.
Because right now it's under litigation, okay?
But it's not under litigation between us.
I know, that's why we're going to solve it between us.
So we can talk about it.
Yes.
But
So I guess I just don't understand what the problem is. If you've been operating with this agreement in place and serving the town,
Because they've taken...
what has changed?
They've taken the position that it's not active, that it's not an agreement, it's not an honorable agreement.
What
That's
I
why
can
they
tell
take that
them
route.
is the fact that they...
So we need to decide between us, is it agreement or not? If it's not, it changes a lot of things.
But it sounds to me like the discussion point should be with the town, who has a different view than you do.
The town is not mentioned in this agreement anywhere. The county and the city are. We need to not find out does this agreement exist between us, no other entities. That's it. We feel it does exist. Go ahead.
May I say this is a public meeting? People are watching this. They have no idea what the background of this is. I think it's very vitally important that we lay the predicate on the basis on which we are presenting our argument today. I think it's clear that everybody understands what we're talking about. And then once we understand those facts, or at least we accept them or reject them, then we can all then talk about them. But right now, I think there may be facts on your side that may not be coincidental with ours. We need to lay them all out, have a presentation. Following that, then we can have a discussion. That would be my view of how we should handle this.
I agree.
Mr. Mayor, is that the way you would like to proceed?
That's the way we intended to proceed. But again, if you don't want to listen to hear the
No.
presentation, it's your decision.
Don't say that. It was our intent that we would all be discussing because we have been involved with the process.
And I have no problem discussing it. We're not going to discuss prices.
Not going to discuss the price.
No. Until we can complete our rate study, we don't have anything to guarantee anything.
Well, I'm very open to having as many meetings as possible to bring this to a head, to a conclusion, to common ground, to an agreement, so that citizens can be serviced properly and by the right entity. I clearly stated that we had no interest whatsoever in getting into this water business. Okay? It's crystal clear.
Well, I know that you're saying that, but I don't know why you
No,
do a
if I say it, I
feasibility
mean-
study. Why you do a feasibility study, which is exactly what County Administrator Brown put in front of you on the agenda that day. It says in the document, a feasibility study. If you don't want to do it, why would you do a feasibility study to see if it's feasible to do it?
So we're not doing the feasibility study. The town of Indian River Shores is doing a feasibility study, and they asked us to allow our staff to work with them to provide them the information they need for them to conduct a feasibility study. The Indian River County is not doing a feasibility study to provide service to the town of Indian River Shores. The town of Indian River Shores is doing the feasibility study. And the second point is, was it 6, 8 years ago when the town, when y'all wrote the current franchise of the town? 6, 8 years ago? So the town was looking for a new water and service provider. At that point in time, the county was a very active participant in that process. We submitted a bid to the town, and never, during that entire time, did y'all ever bring up the service territory agreement. So I don't know why it's a big thing now, because 6, 8 years ago, it was never mentioned. And you all ended up working a deal with the town, and they went with you, but there is an open competition for that service to the town, and nowhere did anybody from the city bring up the service territory agreement. So I find it weird that you all bring it up now. Secondly, and to me, I see two things. One issue is whether the agreement is permanent, and we can argue about that or get the attorneys engaged. But I think more importantly, the issue is, are we in violation of the service territory agreement? If the town of Indian River Shores had sent a public records request to the county asking us for the same information that we're providing them now by cooperating, but if they had sent us a public records request, what's your capacity? You know, how much can you handle? What's your future capacity? What basic questions like that of our public water and sewer system? Would you all be suing us and tell us that we can't respond to a public records request?
We're not suing you right now.
Yes, that's why we're here. You fought.
Chapter 164 is not litigation. Dylan can explain that to you better than I can, but it's not.
Well,
It's
the
the
process
first
we
step
have is the
towards
first step.
litigation.
And we don't have to go that far.
So, okay, let me rephrase
But
it
you're splitting
then
hairs.
to be correct. Would we be sitting here if the town had given us a public records request? Would you really be sitting here and telling us, oh no, you can't respond to the public records request?
No, because you can respond to it.
Well, that's all we're doing, but we just said we do it in a cooperative manner. We haven't laid the first single foot of pipe. We haven't built any more capacity. We haven't done a single thing that would indicate we're moving forward to provide service to them. All we said is, here's our utility system. Here's how many gallons of water we make. Here's how many gallons of sewer we can process. This is our system. It's just public information. That's all we've done. So I don't think we violated any service territory agreement.
I didn't say you violated the
Well,
service.
then why are we here?
Because we're trying to solve if it exists or not.
But that's important.
I think right now it's irrelevant.
That's important. So how can we discuss
We
it?
haven't tried to provide service, so why argue over the service territory?
So your intention is to walk them down the aisle and walk away at the last minute?
Our intention is
And
to,
look, I'll ask you the same question I asked County Administrator. What if it is feasible? Then what happens?
then the town would have to settle with you all the issue of whether they can break out of your service territory.
We would not. They would.
They would.
Can I make a...
It is their lawsuit
Sure.
and their aspersion, and I want you to know that during that meeting, when we discussed that, I cautioned them, be careful what you wish for, because you may not be happy with the result. So it's either going to be for them or to support their study if it is feasible. And if it's not feasible, it's not feasible. Then I think we need to talk further to get the job done. We're not interested in the water business. I think this whole issue is about feasibility on their end, which is important. And now you state that you're not prepared to talk anything about pricing. I wasn't talking about, again, dollars per gallon.
So let me understand this then. If you're saying that if it becomes feasible, then it's their responsibility to come to us to be released from this, and you're saying this contract is enforced.
I'd confer with the attorney, but I believe so.
I think it's the town's responsibility to say, and you know, Mayor, you've said it, I've heard you say it probably a dozen times now, that the town is never mentioned anywhere in this document. And I think that's the town's point. They said, well, how can you rope us in to your service territory that we've never even been a part of the agreement? I mean, that's like me saying, hey, Robbie, you know, we've got an agreement with Fellsmere, and oh, by the way, it includes the City of Vero, and we've got an agreement with Fellsmere. We don't care if you agree to it or not, we're just going to rope you in. That's basically what you did to the town of Indian River Shores. And I think that's why they now have a federal lawsuit with you guys going forward.
I disagree. That's what we did to Shores. It was a joint decision by your board and our board in 1989.
But not the Shores, and I think that's your point. But the bottom line is, if they decide, yeah, we think it's feasible to have the county provide service, then it's their responsibility to figure out how to get out of that service territory agreement.
So you're saying that we recognize the agreement is intact for the county position?
No, I'm saying there is one now. I'm not saying it's permanent. Actually, I think there's some wording in there that would imply that it would be changed in the future.
There is wording to imply, but both parties agree. Right.
The 2 points are, is one, I don't think we violated it. Why are we here?
Because we want to resolve.
Resolve
But
what?
resolve what, though?
Whether you agree that the existence of this report.
But we can't
Contract is valid. Because your staff is telling us it's not valid.
Well, obviously it exists because you have a copy of it in this binder.
Well, you have an outside opinion from council saying that it can't be permanent.
That's a different issue. Whether it exists or whether it's permanent are two separate things.
But we know it exists in this document right now. I mean, it's here. We know we have a written copy of it. But we need to find out if it's permanent or not, because we have to build new facilities. And if I have to worry about the county or Melbourne, Palm Bay, or anybody coming and stealing my customers, I can't build an appropriate facility. Can't build a base. I can't get a good bonding rate. So I don't want to have to worry about this again 6 years from now. I want to worry about it now, today, solve it, and go on, because you're going to have to face the same thing. And when you build a new facility, you have to build it based on your customer rate, based on your customer, number of customers you have to get your bonding. And if you have to worry about me coming behind your back and stealing Grand Harbor or somebody else, then that's a problem. We shouldn't be in that business. And so I don't want to worry about it. I want to make sure if we have an agreement, we don't have an agreement.
Can I give you some history? Because I was mayor at the time. And it's just history for what it's worth. But we tried repetitively to have a franchise agreement with the county. And there is none in existence at this point in time. We paid franchise fees since that time. It's neither here nor there. That was an obligation we should have done and we have done. But the sticking point of why we didn't come to terms at that point in time was simply the fact that there was no acknowledgement of the permanency of the 1989 agreement. In other words, the reason negotiations broke down, and we tried it several times for what it's worth, was there was never acknowledgement by the county at that time. And, you know, in one sense, I guess I'm to blame for a lot of this, because in 1989, I mean, in 2012, 2013, and so on, we decided, well, what the heck? If we don't have an agreement, we'll charge the county rates to the county customers. Just let it go with the county. Actually, at the time, we turned us $280,000 more a year, and figured if we wanted to pay more, so be it. But my mistake was, at that point in time, we should have resolved what we're trying to resolve today, if you want to know the real truth. And for whatever reason, we had the only person that's here was here then is me. And I think we have a very good county commission and very good city council. I really am impressed with what we have. But, you know, the point is, it was a historical mistake, and I think what Bobby's trying to say is, okay, that was a mistake, let's fix it. You know, the rates are going to have to be talked about. I don't think we're prepared to talk about rates, and I also don't think our staff has talked to us about rates. And I do want to say one other thing on my heart. I'm 83 years old. In 2011, that time, I didn't know how much nitrogen and phosphorus it was putting into reused water that some gets in the lagoon. And some of you know I know lagoon aggregate as well as the city aggregate. But what happens is this thing drags on. We can't move the sewer plant. Also, we have to agree upon rates between us to be able to bond. In other words, and we have to have an agreed service area. And the other thing that really plays into this is we can't really build three corners until such time as there's a commitment and we know the sewer plant is moving forward. And I don't think any one of the 10 of us wants to be behind. You know, the three corners should be a destination. And the sewer plant needs to be moved and needs to be state of the art. And so, you know, going back to 2012 and 13, I made a mistake. We should have insisted then on a franchise agreement. We didn't do that. And I think what Robbie is saying is we need to acknowledge that. And I think then we need to talk about rates. And Joe, I'll go back. I'll call you. But I'll go back to your word reasonable. I think we need to work out reasonable rates. And I think I have seen no numbers, nothing to give me any guidance about what not to be reasonable from our side. It has to be reasonable from the point of view that we can actually bond, you know, that we don't lose a lot of money in it. And you wouldn't want us to, and you wouldn't want us to slow down moving the plant to the middle of the lagoon and the three corners. So I want to acknowledge that Jim O'Connor and I made a decision. We made a decision. Well, okay, if they don't want to sign a franchise agreement and they won't agree to the area of hell of it, we'll just go ahead and excuse the word, but we'll go ahead with it, paying the franchise fee. But we should have decided it then, back then. And I think it needs to be decided in the face of it. And I think your word reasonable is right. I think you need to, in the second stage, and you said it yourself, we're going to have to figure out rates. I haven't seen any data that would allow me to do it.
Councilmember, you know, I just want to say I appreciate your candor, your honesty, sincerity, and factualness, and I mean it. I will state, we just hit on one thing, reasonable. Do you know the number one sticking reason why there's a lawsuit? Have you been told why there's the lawsuit?
Read the document. Approved through the document, read some of the document, please, sir.
What do you believe compelled them to file the lawsuit for feasibility? And
If they want
territorial agreement.
They want options, I'm assuming.
Okay, and then why do they want options?
I don't say that, I don't know.
Fear of rates, simply put. And I think that we can get a whole lot closer, even if we're getting to the reasonableness, the closeness of what current rates are, that it's not going to be double, it's not going to be triple, it's not going to be some unusual surcharge that's going to happen all of a sudden because we have to pay for another project. They want to know what they're going to have to be footing for the bill to get clear water.
And we've done, we have done that. Okay, we told them that to the best of our ability right now without a rate study, it's about $17.77 over a 10-year period of time. 10-year period of time, that's the increase.
And is that consistent with your current rates or the county rates? Did they believe?
Oh, it's consistent, it's going to be an increase for the facility, yeah, so it's about $17.77 over 10 years.
Sounds like
and they have, their council member was on the Utilities Commission that was presented at. So we've communicated that with them. And we've communicated with South Beach too. I've had a number of meetings with the South Beach group. Same deal.
Right.
Showing them that. But that's a preliminary study based on the fact that we haven't had an actual rate study done. Okay, we've got the most we can with the information we have right now. And I give you an example of that. That's based on about a $60 million facility being built. Okay? We're applying for a grant Friday, okay, for a $10 million grant that we hope to receive. So that's the worst case scenario we believe. $17.77 over 10 years. It will go a little quicker in the first 5 years and flatten that back out in the last 5 years. And that's the end. So, but every grant we receive brings those numbers down. We truly believe that's our worst case scenario. Now, there's some people in South County, South Beach area, and North Beach area, they live in town and tours that don't believe that, and I can appreciate that. They want hard, fast numbers, but we won't have those until we get all the documents ready for the plan.
Well, how long do you think that would take us, Mayor?
Design will be 15 to 18 months. Am I correct, Rob? Design will be 15 to 18 months.
That's from today?
We'll probably do 30 days ago. But yes, we've started that process, and when we get that, we'll be able to put some more hard numbers to it. But all the professionals we've talked to have given us that number of $55 to $60 million. And that's what we based it on. And they have those numbers.
It sounds like we have a little bit of a road to travel, plus the fact we'll be waiting on that feasibility study, regardless of what the outcome is, and then we'll probably be able to move a whole lot quicker. Can you say so, Mr. Mayor?
I'd like to move quicker than that.
I'd like it to be over today, but
territory agreement resolved so we can move on with our design dates. I'm going to have to slow down design if I'm building for X number of customers and Y. Okay? Because there's about 1,600 in the town of short customers. Excuse me, turn around. I'll make sure I don't give you the wrong number. They've got the numbers better than I do. But, so yeah, I could change the capacity of what I do. It may make my $60 million plan $48 million plan if they decide to go a different direction.
And personally, you're in the business, so you know that those materials will be different just 1 year later. Tremendously in today's market. So everything in construction will be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's very difficult to make that decision today, but
we have to make that decision to make the investment.
Number is,
and that's what we have to do. We have to make the investment, we have to make that decision, and we need to know what our customer base is going to be. In addition for bonding also, because we're not going to get bond rated if we worry about losing customers down the road, and that it's a heavier burden on the rest of the customers back to do it from that standpoint. But I have to know what size facility to build.
I'm going to have to keep on talking, but if you're estimating about $17, say it's the worst case scenario, and then if suddenly comes in 19, now there is a big challenge. And I think you have to convince the ratepayers that reasonableness is there, that 17 is a reality, and that it may be 15. We may be able to work it out even a little better, depending upon the granting processes. But I think you have work to do, not for the county and city at this point.
Well, you keep wanting to push the ball off, but I mean,
no,
wait a minute, they're negotiating, not negotiating, that's a bad word. They're talking to the county about their rates right now, and the county also is going to have to modify their rates and state mandates. You're going to do some work in your facilities. Am I right, or not? I don't want to speak out of school, so if I'm wrong, you tell me.
We're a big staff and that's great.
We're in a heightened regulatory environment that I don't foresee rates going up.
So we're looking at either building a facility for $60 million or redoing our old facility for $35 million.
Right.
So it's not really a true $17 delta. It's about a $5.50, $5.60 delta. I think we take the difference between the two.
Sure.
Okay. So, and that's a state mandate, highly regulated, Jason said, that we can't do anything about it. Okay, we have to move forward with that, but I have to know what to do. I have to know what my customer base is. And that's the whole process behind the 164. Are we going to have these customers in 5 years when I change the lines to the airport? Or are we not?
Well, I think that what the chair has indicated is that, and Commissioner O'Brien, while Indian River Shores has reached out to us for information, which we have provided, the same as we would provide to you guys if you reached out to us for information. If they decide that they want to go in a different direction than to be served by you, that would be between you and them. That would be the crux of where your customer base discussion would happen. As far as we're concerned, the customer base discussion that we are willing to have today relates to the South Beach customers that are county residents being served by you. And I believe that that is where the chair's conversation as far as rates are trying to go. And Mr. Chair, I believe at the beginning you had mentioned that at this point we would be willing to take no position on the territorial agreement, provided we could get some assertions on the rates for the South Beach residents.
But see, I need a position to be taken.
That's correct.
I don't need this to come up 5 years from now, with all due respect. I need the position to be taken so we know
Well,
this plan is going to be a 30-year, 40-year plan.
But irregardless of whatever position we take related to the territorial agreement today, the territorial agreement is going to be litigated. Either you're going to sue us or the town's going to sue us, and when really it's between you and the town. So that's going to be litigated. What we can resolve is the South Beach issue.
I don't know that it will be. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know.
It's already being, so we can just, if it's already being litigated, then I would assume it's only going to get worse. Nobody ever ratchets down litigation.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to not negotiate against myself here at this table, but I think that we have a solid plan in place that the town would be very happy if we get a chance to talk to them.
Then I don't understand again. I know I keep saying the same thing, but I am very much struggling to understand why we're even here. When the issue is between you and the town, I feel like we're being sucked into it because it's easy to suck in the county.
No, that's not it. You're only being brought into it because the agreement between you and I.
I understand
meaning the city and the
that.
county, okay, from that standpoint. And we need to make sure that the county's on our side, also not on our side, but has the same viewpoint that we do on this agreement, okay? Because what that means is that I don't want the county, say that y'all were gone, and Jason's gone, and Jason's an honorable person, he wouldn't go do this, I don't think anyway, so, but I think he's gone, his predecessor's here, and they go recruit the town, they say this agreement doesn't exist. And they recruit the town to bring him over 10 years from now. We're stuck with a facility that we're overbuilt for. So I need to make sure we have an agreement. That's all I'm asking for. And if we don't, then we can move on from that too and go.
But nothing that we decide, based on your argument, nothing that we decide today would prevent that from happening anyway. Because I can't bind a future commission, just like they can't bind a future council. And if they want to go litigate something, they can go litigate whatever they want to.
You're absolutely right. You should give me more of a sense of security. Give the city a sense of security that way. That we have an ongoing agreement. And then at that point in time, you're absolutely right. We have a current contract with the town of Attorney Shores. We have no contract with South Beach. Franchise agreement that we had between the county and us expired in 2017. We would have an obligation to go to the Shores and strike a deal. We have a deal with them right now. They can extend another, it's got 3 or 4 years left on, they extend another 15 years, I believe. Okay, so we know that we have to work out a deal, or we have to honor the agreement.
How do we work out the deal, and how can we go forward today if we don't know a reasonable price? We don't know if the agreement exists or not exists. As far as we know it exists, but is it concrete, ironclad? Is it portable? Is it changeable? Is it declinable? We don't know that. I think once we find out where that court case goes, and I think by the time your feasibility study as far as cost factor goes, I think we'll be able to have a one-stop shop meeting and get it over. But until then, we don't have a good feeling. If the people, the ratepayers do not have a good feeling for, they're going to be in a safety zone as far as the number, whether it's 17, 18, 15, 14, and it's going to go up. Everything goes up in this world. I don't see too many things going down. I've been joking about us lowering the rates. But things increase. The cost of doing business does increase. They understand that, I trust. What they don't understand is what number is it going to be? Are we just throwing it up on the wall and hoping it hits the right target? I think they need to know something more finite, concrete, and I believe that the litigation has to be resolved. And I believe we have 1 or 2 meetings and it's done. Would you agree with me, Mr. Mayor, that those are the sticking points?
I agree that we have to come to a resolution with the town of Attorney Shores, absolutely. I don't know what we have to do before we resolve this.
That's the largest obstacle.
But what I hear you saying, though, is what concerns me is that go work out the deal with them. If they're not happy with the numbers, then they can talk to us.
No, that's not the intent.
You said that the numbers get too high,
no, merely if you talk with them about numbers, perhaps maybe they will reconsider what they're doing and saying, we feel comfortable and confident in the city's approach, and we will not be going forward with this matter. Perhaps maybe you can convince them that, you know what, I'm in safe territory. That we're going to get quality water at reasonable rates, and we can continue on and worry about everything else that we have to worry about, other than the price of doing business, getting water into our homes.
Joe, that at this time, for what it's worth, South Beach is 24% of the business. Indian River Shores is 16%. For what it's worth. You know, reasonably, you can build a facility if you know about the 24%, and not the 16%. I mean, you're building a building, you can build it out far. But the mayor just said we had a contract with them, it's good for 2042, for what it's worth. I don't think Indian River Shores is part of this conversation. I really don't think it has a part here. And I think the word reasonable is a good one. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know how staff, all the staff can crank it, but I think what has to happen is taking into account, I'd like to see in my lifetime the 3 corners to go in the plan. I think as soon as possible, the staff needs to go back and forth about what the word reasonable means, and that it may not mean 2027, it may mean something before that. The mayor said 1766 is the worst case. I think that the wording can be word for staff to come back and reasonable. You know, I have no numbers, and numbers, so we can't possibly do it here. But this, you know, I said this at City Council twice, City Council before last. It is not a commission's or a council's function to run the county or the city. And we make policy, we make budgets, we make laws. But I think it's the staff's responsibility to work out negotiations and to run the business. And I think you have to work in your reasonable when we started with. And I think staff has to do that. I don't see how we do that.
Well, agreed. You know, again, I think we're both blessed. The city and the county is blessed by having an unbelievable team. The challenge is they're working on a solution. They're working on a resolution, and this is going to take time for the rates to be established. This is going to take a time for an understanding. And then we have this court case that is not in our control and is obviously not in your control. So we have a third entity working a lawsuit. Okay, we cannot ignore that. We can also not ignore the fact that this is going to take time. So perhaps maybe we've gained something today up to this point. Maybe there's more, but we've had an open dialogue. I'd like to hear from everybody. Okay, because you see how you draw a little nugget, I drew a little nugget, together we're going to have a gold mine here. It's going to happen. But it's not going to happen if you draw a line in the sand and say, well, we got that lawsuit we're talking about. And we're not taking sides. I hope you felt very firm and confident that we have absolutely no desire to engage in the water business in your territory. But we cannot get involved with the discussion of the territorial agreement. That we have to understand that now is before the courts, not before us. We can state very clearly, we can talk all we want about what our intent is, what your intent is, but we do have to wait for that case to be resolved, unless it's withdrawn. If it's withdrawn because people have the confidence that the rates are going to be reasonable, I'm sorry I keep mentioning that, but it created so much fear when that was thrown out that that's what compelled this whole process. They said, oh my, the city's going to have to make up something, they're going to build with the water. Okay, we have concerns. Obviously, they are seriously concerned if they wanted to commit the amount of money they did to the lawsuit. So we have to wait for that. But in the meantime, we have to have an open dialogue, and we have to just get somewhere. Maybe perhaps I have great hopes that staff is listening to all of you, all of us, and they're hearing it because they're where the rubber hits the road. They're going to come up with the number. They're going to come up with the agreements, understanding, because that's what they do. But we have to give them something. But I think the public expects us to engage in an open dialogue so that we understand where each other's coming from. And to your point, Mr. Mastraya, you said, well, the public does not know. They know more than you think they know about it.
Well, actually, I don't think they do.
They're watching,
Yes.
and what we need to educate more, I agree, but by this open dialogue, I think they will get to know a whole lot more. They're never going to know what staff is knowing right now because it's complicated.
So I would like to ask you a question. Do you have the capacity to serve the shores at the present time with your water and sewer capability?
I don't think that's a pertinent question right now. That's all.
Oh, really? Because they approached you about it. So I'm just curious, even if you have the capacity, do you?
Well, capacity
It's just an open dialogue back and forth.
Okay. We are currently expanding one of our resources in the tune of just short of $11 million in our water supply for new cartridges and capacity, okay? For improved capacity for what we have to serve now. That is different. We have not made any moves to do anything to our infrastructure for capacity. Do we have enough capacity to serve? I would have to revert back to this young man to be able to answer that, but I want you to know.
I mean, they've been flirting with you about trying to...
They're not flirting with us. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. A feasibility study is about feasibility, whether they go here or there. They, quite frankly, they can go up north to Palm Bay, as you know. But they can do any number of things, okay? It's a matter of getting the water to them, the pipe. We don't have the pipe to them. We're not interested in doing it, okay? I stand firmly. You want to look at every one of our faces and see that we're not interested in getting in the water business. There's no bouncing out. There's no disregard. You guys are good, but watch what we can do. No, none of that is happening.
So let's just go ahead.
So you're inferring it that we're looking to take advantage of a situation and get a lot more done, and we have the capacity. We can answer the question if we do have the capacity, but it is inappropriate because it's irrelevant to the discussion. We're not applying it. Well, you can shake your hand, but we're not interested.
Let me ask you this.
No, somebody else.
Let me ask you this.
I'm correct.
Chairman, let me ask you this question. In an effort to continue conversation, open discussion, can we at a minimum get the county attorney to allow us to speak to each other? Because every time I call over there, I'm open.
Well, we cannot speak about things that will come before us under 164 because you guys invoked the 164 process. We could certainly speak about anything that doesn't have to do
I've
with
been told
it.
that's not true by our staff. I believe the attorney to make it.
Can you let me know which staff member told you that, so that we can identify it and we can also bring it out? You can see our attorney here, you have your attorney here. Let's get that out in the open because that is the best solution. I'll tell you what, our initial conversation in Jason's office was very nice. And maybe we can get very
Well,
close.
let's clarify that. We're getting two different opinions here, apparently. I mean, and I respect Dylan for doing his job and can't talk, we can't talk, I get that. But that's not what I've been told.
Well, we can't talk this way, you can't talk that way, but
I know that.
should be able to. We can't talk in this direction lateral, but we should be able to talk to each other to get somewhere. The challenge to that is that information needs to be brought back to the table in any event. Okay, so if we want to continue on, there's nothing in the rule book that says that even in 164 that we cannot meet again. tenderize this issue as much as we want.
I understand.
There's no limitations.
I understand we have more joint meetings, I get that.
Sure.
I understand.
But we can also meet, I'll check with council as well, I believe that we could meet too.
That's what I'm under the impression, that we could meet, you and I can meet, and talk about this, but I've been told no. So I don't know what's.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we let the two attorneys weigh in and we'll see what we can resolve this.
Yes. Councilor Reingold.
I'm not sure if this is on. You can hear me? Okay, great. So, I mean, this is designed to be a joint public meeting, and thus I've always taken the position that this is supposed to be a sort of sunshine law style governance of a public meeting. The reason that I've cautioned my board about meeting on this subject between council members, with council members, is that I was just simply concerned that under the statute we would violate the intent of the statute, which was to have a joint public meeting. I think certainly it would sound strange to the public if one of our commissioners met with one of the council members, came up with a deal, showed up here at the 164 joint public meeting, and then all of a sudden said, hey, you know, Robbie, I'm really glad we met last week and was able to resolve this, and so this is great, I'm glad we did it. I'm sure there are people from the public who would have a comment as to whether that was still in the public. But I turn it back over to the board. I don't want to monopolize this discussion.
Good, we have your counsel as well.
John can weigh in if he likes.
I will.
Okay. Did you want to answer that?
I'll be glad.
Okay.
Thank you. This is John Turner, I'm the city attorney. Regarding the 164 proceeding, there is nothing in the statute that prohibits discussion of the respective governing bodies to each other in individual meetings. The sunshine law does not apply in situations. If they're discussing things with each other, yes, the sunshine law would apply, and it must be done in a public meeting. Mr. Reingold's opinion, respectful, was that he was being overly cautious because of the nature of the 164 proceeding. That's what he advised me. So, but my advice is, and our opinion is, that there's no prohibition on individual meetings between the respective board members to discuss these issues. Mr. Cloud, would you like to add anything?
Yeah. When I was 60, I spent about 100 hours doing the certification exam, and I sat through a bunch of courses. I heard way more than I ever wanted to hear. And I'm pretty sure that just because you meet in 164 doesn't turn you into a different governmental body where you're all members of the same entity. That would be the only way sunshine would apply. Now, obviously, you still can't meet as members of the same board. That would be a violation of sunshine. But if you wanted to meet with the mayor, or if you wanted to meet with Ms. Moss, that's not a violation of sunshine. And I don't think it's a violation of 164 either. There's no attorney general opinion, there's no case law, and I feel very confident in saying that those kinds of individual meetings are not a violation of sunshine.
I think the safest thing for my board in resolving this simply would be if the 164 proceeding were to stop and we were to put it either in abeyance or cease it, that then any of this ambiguity would be irrelevant, and certainly the dialogue would be open and continued.
Is there any way to place the 164 in abeyance, leaving the option for it to continue on? Council? I really would like an idea of that way that we can all get to this council. And it sounds like you want to.
I can say under the statute, 164.1055 subsection 1C, the board is able to schedule additional meetings of the entities in conflict or other designees. So thus, it seems like that the board could designate to us or others to then continue to have discussions and meetings, and then to also to continue to seek resolution of the conflict. So my suggestion would either be board of county commissioners and the city council could look to each other to say, hey, we want to kind of kick this back to staff to continue to see if they can come to a resolution of the issues that have been raised here. Certainly the boards can decide that maybe let's just stop the 164 process. Let's just stop that and therefore go back to basically talking to each other, having open dialogue with each other. And if that doesn't seem to progress, then maybe we would start the 164 process again. Again, I'm just trying my best to provide different options of being able to have dialogue between the entities.
So what you're suggesting, Council, is that it could be turned down, but not turned over?
Well, my strongest recommendation, just so that we don't have any concerns about being challenged if we didn't properly follow the 164 process, would simply be that the two sides agree that the 164 process would cease. And or you delegate the issue back to staff and continue to dialogue separately under the 164 process.
That has the added benefit of us abandoning this process and then allowing the town to file their case and the town and the city to move forward, because again, that's who the dispute is with.
We'll give you Commissioner Adams.
So here's my concern with multiple commissioners and council members having sidebar conversations. While it might be allowable, the perception and the optics, if you want to talk about the public and what the public hears and sees and knows, the public is going to perceive that as some kind of backdoor deal that we're not operating in the public, having joint public meetings. I would be more comfortable if each board wanted to select a designee and those two designees tried to work out or negotiate something rather than everybody having sidebar conversations with everybody else, and then those conversations do not get brought back here and conveyed to the public in a public fashion, because it is the perception becomes the reality, whether it's happening or whether it's allowable or whatnot.
I'm fine with that.
And then we'll crossed off. Agreed, they were crossed off. Very concerning, and I think it will only cause the concern that even after staff had their meeting, that we weren't aware of certain things that we were, and you may not be aware of certain things. We trust that your staff has given you everything that they talked about, and Mr. Mayor, I have to say that you've been very strong during this process, and appreciate the fact that you've been on top of this situation and collecting the data and the information, and you've been present during the meetings. So
I just think this issue's got to be resolved, that's all.
Yes.
I mean, truly, this
And I feel the same way.
It's got to be resolved. It just keeps coming up over and over again every 10 to 12 years. And we don't need that to continue.
Well, and I think we understand that you are looking for some kind of ability to bond out your project, and there's certain information and certainties that we need in order to do that, although I feel as if we've kind of given an initial offer there. However, again, I don't think, it doesn't appear like we are going to come to resolution today during this meeting. It doesn't appear, so our option is to continue to have massive joint meetings ad nauseum into the future. We could take the opportunity to decide amongst ourselves a designee from each board to kind of try to get together and then set another future joint public meeting to go over whatever came out of that. Or we could kick it back to staff for them to try to dicker with. Or or according to statute, we basically come to an impasse and it goes to mediation. And then from mediation, it goes to litigation. So at this point, it would seem to me that the better option is either to have future meetings or come up with a designee situation. But I look to hear from my other commissioners on their thoughts.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any objection to having future joint group meetings. I think it's helpful, and I'd like to hear from the different individuals. I appreciate that. And I can't see this going to a lawsuit between us. And And whether it's $17 or $19 or $29, one thing I hope that the community takes away from today is that the price of water is not going to be cheap anymore. It's just not. The days of cheap water is over. We've already had this conversation publicly. St. John's River Water Management District is focusing on water conservation and water farming. Water is going to become a quantity issue, not solely a quality issue, as it has been historically. So to worry about whether it's 17, 18, or 19, I mean, 10 years from now, we're going to look back at today, and you're going to laugh. You're going to go, boy, they had it good, like $1 a gallon of gas, you know, like that kind of thing. I mean, we're headed for a future where water is just going to become more expensive. And I think, you know, your concern about your customer base is certainly reasonable and very legitimate. And, you know, I think it's something I'm happy to address as a group. And I appreciate all of your comments, my board and yours.
I think Commissioner Adams makes a good point. In the sense that we can have meetings, we can have designees. I actually suggest that we have designees, maybe try to work together. So my board's willing, I'm willing to do it from this side. If you all want to have the chairman or somebody else do it, I'm fine with that. Work together through this and bring it back to joint meetings again. And that, therefore, she made a good point that we know the information being involved properly as well, back and forth with each other.
You know, Mayor, after that, when we did the electric, I was a designee for OUC and negotiating out of $50 million penalty. And Mrs. Moss was the designee in closing the deal with the MPA. We were designated by the city council each of us at that time. And that worked rather well.
I'd like to make some comments, and I don't really want to be negative or be the party crasher on this, but I kind of go back to what was said earlier, like Mr. Adams is that I am really trying to wrap my head around still why we are here today over this agreement that apparently you want to answer about. We haven't done anything, we haven't filed anything, we haven't committed anything. Commissioner Bryan said at the very beginning of the meeting, we need to shorts of doing a feasibility study. I mean, I almost feel like we're being called out here for, and I've used this analogy with Jason and Dylan and others, that we're being called out for traveling in a basketball game and we don't even have the ball. I just don't really quite understand why we're here with regards to this. But I understand your concerns. And Mr. Mayor, I've heard you say time and time again today, you're worried about your customer base. I'm worried about this, like this. We're not out to steal your customer.
I'm not worried about you stealing. I'm worried about me.
Well, then why are you worried about it?
I have to get bonding, Commissioner Herman. I have to build it, so I got to know what's going to
You're worried about Indian River Shores. You're worried about us taking Indian River Shores. You said that. You said that. Again, you're worried about us.
I said I'm worried about building a facility with $60 million and losing my customer base, yes. Because my existing customer would have to take on the additional cost. I do with it. It could be anybody. It could be the South Beach. It could be, you know, any of my customers. We have to get a good bond.
We as a commission, in my opinion, have a purpose to protect the customers in the South Beach area, in my opinion, because they are county residents. You have an agreement with the town of Indian River Shores. Frankly, to me, that's your problem. That's not our problem. And why are we being drug into this? I don't really know why. I'm still having trouble comprehending that. In an overall scheme of what we're looking at. I've heard what everybody says. I've heard both sides. And I still am trying to wrap my head around still why are we really here today over something that you guys are worried about with regards to us violating the territorial agreement. If you want us to recognize it, it's an agreement right now. We haven't tried it. We haven't called foul on it. We haven't said you guys are wrong. We haven't said you guys are right. Apparently, Indian River Shores is going to take care of that with a declaratory judgment lawsuit we're filing against you. That answer will probably be answered by a federal judge. It still doesn't mean that we're going to take your business. It still doesn't mean we want your business. We got plenty of business. We got people moving in every day to this county, subdivision being built. I don't know if I'm going to see it in my lifetime, or Commissioner O'Brien's probably not going to see it, but you know, there are probably have to be moved.
Wow. Like I said,
If no one went inside the urban service line, it'll probably have to be moved. So
like I said, it's not a matter of you want a larger area, bigger area.
Let me finish. Is that, you know, I've looked at this thing, I've read all the things, and I'm not an attorney, and I'm not going to make heads or tails about that. That's for a judge to decide, that's for the attorneys to decide. I really feel that we are being brought into something that we have no business being brought into. I don't feel a violation's been made. Again, I think y'all called us for traveling, and we never even had the basketball in our hands. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why I can understand why you're worried about it, but why you're worried about us. Worried about taking your customers. That's what I'm getting out of this conversation. I would go back to say what Commissioner Adams agreed to. I think this is something that staff can work out, and I think staff should be working it out. I have no problem with having a designee from the city council or the county commission being a part of that committee to work it out and bring it back to us so we can resolve this. But I really don't know why we're here with 174. If you want me to tell you that we agree with you that the 1989 agreement in flex, that we can walk away here, I think you said that at the beginning of the meeting, if that's what we can do, that's needed now, because this is going to be decided. It's going to be decided by a vote apparently. This is a conflict between you guys and Indian River Shores. There's not a conflict between Indian River County and the City of Vero Beach. Frankly, I don't think you really can. Other than we want to protect the citizens of Indian River Shores because they are county residents, and we want to protect the citizens of South Beach. But you guys have the water deal with them now. Y'all need to sit down and talk to them. You don't need to be talking to us. So I would be in favor of what Commissioner Adams said to resolve this, because the process has already started. Let's see it through. Let's finish it, and let's move on, and whatever it takes, I'm willing to do to resolve this, to make you guys feel better. But frankly, I still don't know why we're even.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Urban. I appreciate that. That very much echoes my own feelings on this. Historically, there were only two providers of water sewer, the city, the county. And we agreed how we would divide those customers so that we could provide that service. Now it turns out that Vero's got a disgruntled customer, and they're trying to drag you into their problems. It's, to me, very simple. We're here to affirm our service territory, and I think I don't hear any conflict on that at all. If we can accomplish that today, that would be very good. Then as far as what the Shores is doing, they obviously want your cooperation. That's certainly up to you. But this is all about another issue. Money, fees, what these are going to be all about. I think that as Robbie as our mayor has been saying all along, that's very hard for us to work on in there because we've got, rate studies coming up. We can project, we can think, but it's not confirmed. So this issue really should stay on our staff level right now. And it doesn't need our discussion further. We're here for our service territory. Let's do that. Let's let the rest of it come to our staff, and let's let the Indian River Shores take theirs to where they go. That's sincerely my favorite comment.
This mayor, you said we were going to take him down the aisle and walk away. I didn't know we were dating.
Well,
to be honest with you, I didn't know we were dating.
Yeah, I think that, in my mind, brings up a good point. And Councilmember Minnies just said this, that they have a disgruntled customer base. This is the second time now they've tried to get away from your services. So I'd be asking myself, why do they want to keep leaving us? Okay, a lot of y'all are business people. And if some of your good customers can say, hey, I don't want to do business with you anymore, wouldn't you ask, well, why? What is it we're doing wrong? Okay? And I could go into a whole dissertation if you want to hear it. But I can tell you, you all treat your customer base like crap. Okay? From a customer service point of view, you all make Comcast and AT&T look great. Okay, honestly. At the last staff meeting, when we were talking about this, your staff said, we're going to do a rate study and then everybody's going to pay the same rate. That's it. And our staff asked, are you sure we're about your franchise agreement? No, everybody's going to pay the same rate. Well, now you got a customer base that still has a valid agreement, and your staff just said, we're not going to honor it.
No,
that's what your staff
No, they
said.
didn't. They just said we're going to honor it. They said, we know we have work to do with the shores.
Well, they said...
Never once said we were going to breach the contract or that we weren't going to
Well,
honor
when
it.
they say the rate applies to all users, then that's
our
how
goal.
they breach it.
That's our goal.
Well,
and we can sit down with the shores and talk and show them we have it all.
How do you think your customer base feels about just hearing that? Okay, they didn't hear, well, we're going to, try to work a deal with you. They said, no, everybody's going to pay the same rate. So you have to ask, why are your customers going to keep leaving? Okay? That's the first thing y'all should figure out. Why do they want to keep leaving? Okay? The second question, and I think Mr. Herman, again, said it great. We shouldn't even be here. Okay? We're not going after your customers. They're coming to us because they want to leave you all. Because they're tired of being treated the way they get treated. Okay? You have a lot of folks that live outside the city limits that come in to the city. They spend a boatload of money. You all collect a boatload of 1-cent sales tax from them. They support your shops, your restaurants. If you look at the donor list of the theater, the art museum, the hospital, if you look at all the nonprofit donor lists, the majority of those people are out-of-city residents. But then you have some council members that all they can say is, oh yeah, all these out-of-city people are coming in here and taking all our resources and we need to make them pay more. How do you think they feel about it? They've been paying more going back to the electric days when they were putting in $5 million into your general fund. They're still paying into your general fund for water and electric and water and sewer. They spend millions of dollars in your city limits supporting your businesses, restaurants, shops, sales tax you all get, and then you say, oh, we need to make these people pay more. They're using our beach, we should make them pay more. They pay a boatload. But that's how you're treating them. Not once. Since I've been here, and just to correct Councilmember Winger, you weren't the only one here back in 2011. Okay, Chairman Fletcher and myself have been here since 2006. So we've been around for a while, so thank you. Since then, I've never heard any city council member say, you know what, we're really grateful for the out-of-city people that come in and support our businesses and restaurants.
That's completely different.
I've never heard anybody
You've heard me say it a number of times.
Well, I haven't heard
line right now.
I haven't heard anyone say that.
Yes, you heard me say it a number of times. I said it Thursday council. Just the last meeting, last month, you were sitting right in the audience.
Right, maybe you're the only one that's saying it, okay? But I know I haven't heard from any others. And I know some of them are still spouting the thing about, yeah, they're coming here, it's like they're stealing the city coffers, okay? And that's what they did here. So all I'm saying is y'all are treating them lousy. That's why they want to leave. And I know some of y'all have publicly and privately said that people are trying to kill Vero. That's not it. They're not trying to kill you. They're just trying to do business with you. Because you treat them so loud. So I would take time to reflect on why do they want to keep leaving us, and what can we do to make them happy so they don't want to leave. I mean, that would be the first thing I would think of. Instead of suing us, go to your disgruntled customer base and say, what can we do to keep you? What can we do to make you happy? Why is it you want to keep leaving us? That's what you need to answer.
And those meetings were planned, I had them planned a year ago when they filed the first lawsuit.
Well, and they filed a lawsuit because y'all had disagreement on the written agreement, okay? But sit down and have a meeting. Say, listen, okay, let's settle this, okay? Instead of, that's been going on for a year, you can't figure out what you're going to charge for reuse, okay? Get that done. And then sit down with them and say, why are you going to leave us with the water and sewer? What can we do to make you a happy customer? And then you can sell Ronnie on, and what I would do, Ronnie, is I get that you got to figure out what your fixed costs are. I get that, okay? But you have to give them some kind of guarantee, okay? Say, listen, we want to move the water treatment plant, we think it'll be good for the lagoon, and, reduce nutrients and all these good things, okay? So there's a second side of that. It's going to open up the 3 corners, which will be an increase in real estate value, which will help the city's general fund. Right? So I would go to the shore and say, okay, here's the deal. and hopefully for the South County, and that's who we're representing, is this will be the deal going forward to move the water treatment plant. If there's any cost above what we have here right now, the general fund will cover. If the general fund is benefiting from that move as well. Okay, or break it down, like you said, Robbie, it's 35 and 60. Okay, so
I don't think City Hall allows it.
I think you all can put money into your water treatment plant however you want to.
I think we're required to do a rate study and come back and set the price to reasonably recover our asset investment and our repair and maintenance down the road.
Maybe, I don't know that long, but I would find a way to make it work somehow, so that you can give them a fixed price going forward. Now, I think you think it's going to be $17.77 now, but in 18 months, it might be $37.77. You have to give them some certainty now. Work it out with them. I mean, again, sit down and figure out why they want to leave. That's the question. Why do they want to leave?
Mr. Mayor, again, I have to say that Vice Chairman O'Brien brings up a valid point about customer-based assessment and appraisal as far as the service. So many successful utilities do that on a regular basis. How we doing it? Again, we have someone that's viewed that as disgruntled. We have a group of some of the population that is disgruntled. So you may have that amplified. But you know, thinking about that, thinking about the three variables plus the lawsuit, you know, and since we have nothing to do with that suit, I'd like to propose a little time because staff still has to work out. That's going to be a lengthy process. So perhaps maybe they'll come to a closer conclusion. And perhaps maybe we should have another meeting just like this. And of course it's right, the public is willing to come, we're all willing to come. And we can have a meeting and we can meet together again. But in the meantime, I think maybe we have to work out some minor issues as well. And maybe perhaps we need to ensure that we have given the proper time to review this. I did not look at each page in reference to that, you know, we just got it approach. But our staff has been approaching us and has apprised us of much of this information. So I think that this was a great starting point. We can't say that we got to the line yet, but I don't know if we should be changing anything other than setting forward another meeting, hopefully that we will have more information and we understand each other, and I think we need to hear from each one of the members of each side as well.
Would it help to make a presentation from the council to understand what's in there?
We're past that.
I don't think that, yeah,
I think we should have appointed designated meeting board that can meet with the staff, set it up, get the information out, and go from there. That's my recommendation. You know, if the county wants to do that, that's fine. We can do it, if not.
I think that's the right way to go. Always a number of staff to designate each board, which is what we did in the past, and that would be well.
it'll bring it closer, but again, the perception is I'm concerned about the individuals that are sitting in those chairs. Okay? I'm concerned about the optics of all others, the ratepayers, the people that are waiting to see if the newspaper is going to report it appropriately, if they're invited. And I believe that this open public hearing is probably the best solution where we stand right now. That may change. We get closer, but I don't.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Gillian, once for the staff or public too.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be a public setting.
Yeah, it would be a public session. It would just be a smaller session. It would be, you know, the staff and the one commissioner, you know, and
Mr. Chairman, since apparently according to you, I'm going to be dead here soon. I'd like to go ahead and nominate you to be our designated, meet with the city designee on this issue.
Well, I haven't called you to take it yet, if that's agreeable.
It kind of sounded like you had me 4 feet under it lately.
Well, it really wasn't my intention, because I was going to nominate them, but it really wasn't, it came out wrong.
Okay.
About his early demise.
Oh, I think it's just retirement.
Yeah.
Retirement, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Guys, are both wearing yellow shirts, the same team, just get it on.
I know how you
like the yellow shirt you got, man. All right, so,
I would nominate Commissioner O'Brien for this, or designate.
okay, so you nominated me, you nominated him.
Oh, I'm sorry. You nominated him?
I'm dead, really.
You talked about that?
I can't hear.
So, come on.
I did. Okay.
I don't care who does it. My only question is I think that we need to indicate which staff members are going to be there, because you can look at our staff side versus this staff side, and if that many people show up at a meeting between 2 designees and staff, that's too many. Now we're back to having a 20-person meeting. So my suggestion would be the administrator, the attorney, and the designee, and be done with it. The administrator, the attorney, and the designee.
3 people,
So-
2 people, and anybody.
City manager,
I would agree we could start there. At some point in time, we would let you know if each one maybe had a utility director at some point in time to talk about stuff that was, above one of our pay grades, mine especially.
I think that would be fine, as provided it's mutually agreed upon. I just don't want our side walking into a meeting expecting it to be a congenial meeting amongst co-governors, and then be hit with, the whole football team.
And then they can choose who else they want.
And by attorney, just for clarification, I mean a city attorney.
That'd be a good process.
What would it be, So, ladies?
Can we identify an agenda for that first meeting?
Well, I think the agenda is to work out a negotiation position.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any question about the territorial agreement?
Well, I think that what has been put on the table at this point by staff is that we will take no position on the territorial agreement, provided we can get some protections for our South Beach residents, which, as Mr. Winger pointed out, is 24% of the customer base that you guys are concerned about making sure there's some clarity on. So that's the larger portion of the customer base than Indian River Shores. So it should not require any kind of position to be taken on the territorial agreement.
Well, that's not why we're here. We're here to take a position on that territorial agreement, and that needs to be resolved today.
Well, we've moved beyond that, Mr. Turner. My conversation is with your counsel. My conversation is not with you.
I have not lost the floor yet, Councilwoman.
I'm not a counselor.
John,
I'm a commissioner.
have the floor to begin with. Thank you, Council.
John,
Thank you, Council.
We need an
John,
Councilor, we're not debating this. You're going way over the boundaries, Councilor. He most certainly is.
The 164 is on our agreement.
It's an open public meeting.
It's not a free-for-all, that's the difference.
Well, I believe
Don't
he
misconstrue
recognized,
it.
he would ask for recognition, Mr. Mayor. May he speak?
I've been asked questions, and I responded to them. That is the way things were working. I did not think it was appropriate for John to then counter back to one of my commissioners. If you have a question from one of your council members, I'm fine for you to answer.
I would like to offer, if I may, that
Yes, thank you.
I was just trying to seek clarity as to who would be at the meeting, and I can understand Councilmember Manous wanting to seek clarity on the agenda. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm but one of 5, the agenda would be a continuation of today's discussion, because it's obvious that we're not going to be we're not going to reach a resolution on anything today.
Including the territorial agreement?
Again, that's not on the table. It can't be on the table. The territorial agreement is being discussed in the courts, correct? So how could we engage in that without deciding that we want, and if we do it between us, then we are engaging in a side which can constitute us engaging in a lawsuit.
I need a legal opinion
Mr.
on that.
Chairman,
Please.
you alluded to this in your earlier opening statement.
Yes,
I believe our position is that we are still standing with the proposal that Jason presented at the last staff meeting.
That's correct. That's correct.
So, Ms. Minius, if you want an official position, I think we are still sticking with the proposal that Jason presented at the last staff meeting, which had the 5-year rate cap and a phase-in period, some certainty for our South County residents, and then we would, what was the wording, we would be neutral on the...
We would essentially agree to the validity of the agreement. We would be neutral in the validity.
So we would agree to the validity of the agreement related to South County.
And on the April 6th, the April strike, I agree with exactly what Commissioner Bryan said. And I wanted that to refer back to what Councilmember Manoush asked was about this, is that it was brought up by Vice Chairman Bryan at the April 6th meeting that the county would be taking sides. How do you put it? Administrator Brown assured the board that the county had not and would not engage in the water rate dispute between the city and the county. And added that he did not feel the county would be taking sides if that item was approved to allow staff to cooperate with the town to explore options. And Commissioner Bryan said that at the viewpoint the county would be taking sides if they were denying cooperation. He said that at the very beginning of this meeting too. So for us to say we say yes or we say no to the territorial agreement is probably irrelevant at this time, because first of all we feel like why are we even here? And the next thing is in count 1 of the lawsuit, that's exactly what the county meeting reports is filed suit against y'all about. So I don't want to get into asking the attorneys right now, but is it going to be viewed that we say that yes, we support it, or no, we don't support it? It's all going to be viewed. It's going to be decided for us. And it's out of order.
I would like to get back to where we were at a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, we're right up here a little bit. I know, but
it got swapped up with the...
We're going to have an appointee, legal staff, now we have staff being an administrator or manager and an attorney, an actual employed attorney. That's solidified right now, and then if that needs to change, we'll mutually agree upon that.
I'd like to see an agenda for that.
We will make sure the agenda put out for that, and everybody have access.
Usually it's just gotten convoluted, you know, and our discussion here has gone from one area to the other. My impression was that we were coming here for the 164, and it was for the service territorial agreement. But now we have an agreement not to agree on it, because. This is what happens. I really hate to see this divide between us. It makes very, very, I don't like that.
I don't, and Councilmember Blues, I don't believe that it is a divide. It's respect of a lawsuit. We must respect the lawsuit. We cannot engage. Okay? It's a dance that we're not invited to. And we're not going to waltz unless we take a side. So we're not taking a side. And I said that when they applied for this, I said this in our initial meeting in Jason's office when it was you and I and our utilities director. And I believe I said it again in the opening statements. And I don't know how many times we're going to have to say that. And again, I knew that we were not here for territorial agreement. Again, if you want to think that we accomplished something today, we did. We clarified that we're not here for the territorial agreement. It's not a lie, but your interpretation was that we were going to be here for the territorial agreement.
The 164.
That's got to be decided in that courtroom, unless it's decided otherwise.
I'll be interested in your agenda.
Commissioner O'Brien, did you nominate the chair?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
So you don't want to do it, so I will, I'm going to take that. So I will be happy to further nominate the chair. So so we can get to a resolution. So,
Moving forward.
all right. It seems like the chair is it, and Mayor Brackett is it, and the staff knows where they are, so I don't know if we have anything. I guess you guys will just get together and decide.
It's just
really
time
great
to get put an agenda.
Okay, and then after that, we'll probably get back together for another joint meeting to go over
I would assume that. yes.
whatever happens. Okay, fantastic.
And the standard is the administrator, the attorney, and you, administrative
I
attorney.
assume my board wants me to continue.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you got nominated by.
I nominate by one.
I like that.
I'll second it.
Hey, counsel, you allowed to do that?
Okay, yes.
And then, just Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, our agenda does have an item for public comment. So before we wrap up,
Yes, please.
we should call for any public
Yes.
comment in the public.
Would that just please, Mayor, as well? You know what?
Is there anybody in public comment? Seeing none?
We can take that as we accomplished something or we accomplished a lot. Okay, you choose however you want to leave the room. Okay, I know how I'm going to leave the room.
We'll declare adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.